Welcome to Whisper Wire, where real Reddit stories breathe. Betrayal cuts deeper, revenge whispers louder, and love, loss, and justice collide in ways you never forget. Because sometimes, the quietest voice delivers the most powerful truth. Please like this video and subscribe, Whisper Wire. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. Ryan Mercer never thought his marriage would turn into a crime scene of lies. He and his wife Lauren had been together since college. Two kids who grew up in what friends swore was a dream couple. They bought their first home in Connecticut, built careers side by side, and carved out routines so familiar they almost seemed sacred. But sacred turned sour. It began with her phone, always face down now, vibrating with secrets she claimed were just work. Lauren was a realtor, and Ryan never questioned late-night showings until they became constant. Once a month turned into 3 times a week, he'd joke, "Do buyers need mood lighting at midnight?" But her tight little smile was the kind that warned him not to push. Then came the yoga obsession. Brand new designer leggings, evening classes at hours that never matched the studio's posted schedule. Her showers stretched into half-hour marathons long enough to wash off sins, not sweat. The bed turned cold, 2 strangers lying inches apart, closer to enemies than lovers. Ryan wasn't stupid. He started watching. The details stacked like bricks. New dresses never worn around him. Phone calls cut short the moment he walked into a room. Trips that made no logical sense for a local realtor. And then came the day his gut suspicion turned into undeniable proof. He followed her. He sat in his car, coffee going cold in the cup holder, and watched Lauren pull into a shopping center lot. 10 minutes later, another car rolled up. A man, mid-40s, smug in a way that made Ryan's blood boil, slid into her passenger seat. He didn't even hesitate before leaning in close. Their laughter carried even through closed windows. And when he kissed her, long and deliberate, Ryan's chest tightened like a vice. 15 years of loyalty gone in the time it took for another man's lips to claim his wife's. She came home that night humming about her amazing yoga class, her hair still damp from the shower. She reheated leftovers, talking about nothing while Ryan chewed in silence, replaying every detail of what he had seen. But here's the thing. Ryan wasn't going to explode. No slam doors, no screaming matches. He knew better. Explosions only warn the enemy. He wanted her destroyed. That night, while Lauren showered again, Ryan stepped in her car. She always left it unlocked behind old real estate flyers. He found a receipt, 3:30 a.m. at a gas station 40 minutes from any of her listings. A breadcrumb proof she was living a double life. Rye didn't sleep that night. Instead, he stared at the ceiling, the fan blades cutting through the silence like a metronome for betrayal. He promised himself one thing. If Lauren thought she was untouchable, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. Ryan Mercer had always been the kind of man who noticed the smallest details. As an architect, precision defined his work. Measurements, angles, symmetry. It wasn't in his nature to leave things half-seen. And now that instinct turned inward, fixing itself on his wife like she was a blueprint riddled with flaws he'd once ignored. He began documenting, not scribbles on scraps of paper. No, Ryan went meticulous. A spiral-bound notebook hidden in his workshop became his ledger of betrayal. Dates, times, outfits, excuses. Each lie she fed him became a line of ink. Each shift in her schedule, another entry. He noted her exact words when she claimed, "I'll be home late. A big client needs me." He jotted down the precise moment her headlights pulled into their driveway, hours later than promised. Every night, while she snored softly, pretending to be exhausted from work, Ryan lay awake. He remembered the way her laugh sounded in the car with that man, the way she twirled her hair around her finger like she used to with him in their college days. That memory burned more than any physical betrayal. But Ryan wasn't just collecting proof for himself. He was preparing for war. The next morning, while sipping coffee across from her at their polished marble island, he smiled and asked casually, "So, yoga again today?" Lauren didn't look up from her phone. "Yeah, hot yoga at 4 o'clock. Ryan tilted his head. "Hi, yoga. Must be exhausting." She gave him that blank smile, the kind that carried no warmth, then returned to scrolling. She had no idea. He had already looked up the studio schedule. There was number 4 p.m. class. She was feeding him fiction, and he played along as though it were gospel. That afternoon, instead of heading to the office, Ryan parked 2 blocks from the luxury gym she claimed to frequent. He watched her drive right past it without slowing. He followed at a careful distance, adrenaline buzzing through his veins like static. She didn't notice him. She was too busy checking her reflection in the mirror, touching up her lipstick, rehearsing whatever lies she'd toss his way. Later, she turned into a quiet suburban neighborhood. Neat houses lined like soldiers, manicured lawns trimmed within an inch of perfection. Her car slowed, then stopped in front of a beige colonial with green shutters. And there it was, the same man from the shopping lot stepping out with a smug grin, as though he owned the entire block. Ryan's grip tightened on the wheel until his knuckles bleached white. He snapped photos, house license plate, the two of them embracing openly in the doorway. She wasn't even pretending to be discreet. 15 years of loyalty. And she had tossed it aside for stolen afternoons in a stranger's home. That night, Rye ate spaghetti. He set the table like normal. Asked her about her day like normal. Kissed her on the cheek when she leaned past him to grab the parmesan. But inside, he was still when she excused herself after dinner for another 30-minute shower. Ryan sat at the kitchen counter scrolling through his phone. Not mindlessly, though. He was searching private investigators in his area. He wanted airtight evidence, something that would bury her in court, something that would strip her of any chance to twist the narrative. By the next morning, he had already booked one, a middle-aged ex-cop named Mark Daly, recommended by a colleague. They met in a corner booth of a diner, steam from coffee fogging the window between them. "So," Daly said, "notebook open. You want confirmation." Ryan slid his phone across the table. Photos of Lauren with her mystery man lighting the screen. "Not confirmation," he corrected, his voice low and sharp. "I want documentation. Proof that can't be spun. I want the truth carved in stone." Daly gave a slow nod. Understood. For the next week, Ryan played his role as the doing husband, while Daly shadowed Lawrence's every move. Each evening, she came home, humming about clients and sales. Ryan sat across from her, watching, wondering if she had even an ounce of guilt left. Did she know the man who once kissed the ground she walked on now counted every lie she told? By Friday, Daly called, "Got everything you need." When Ryan opened the thick envelope delivered to his office, his heart slammed against his ribs. Inside, high-resolution photos, timestamps, video stills. Lauren walking into the man's home with her yoga mat under her arm, leaving hours later disheveled and glowing. The man identified as Greg Stanton, a married father of 2, a contractor with his own wife, grading homework at home while he destroyed another family. Ryan stared at the images for a long time, rage simmering like lava under cracked earth. But he didn't throw the file away. He didn't storm in her lover's house like some rabid animal. He slid the evidence into his desk drawer and closed it softly. Because this wasn't about fury. It was about precision. That night, Lauren crawled in a bed beside him. She pressed a soft kiss to his cheek, whispered, "Love you," and turned away. Ryan lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, her words slicing deeper than silence. "Love you." The audacity of it almost made him laugh. In the following days, Ryan began preparing quietly. He opened a new bank account at a credit union across town. Every morning, before heading to work, he transferred small amounts from their joint account. Little enough not to raise alarms, but enough to build himself a fortress she'd never touch. He gathered financial records, scanned copies of their taxes, mortgage, insurance papers. His workshop became a war room, folders stacked, receipts clipped, dates highlighted in red. By the time he contacted a divorce attorney, he wasn't a betrayed husband anymore. He was a strategist. "You've built a hell of a case," the attorney said, flipping through the thick file Ryan laid on his desk. Judges love timelines and hard evidence. With this, she won't just lose alimony. She'll walk away lucky if she gets her suitcase. Ryan gave a slow, measured nod. "Good. But I don't just want to win. I want her feel it. I want her entire facade shattered. The lawyer archy brow. You're not looking for quiet papers, then?" "No," Ryan said coldly. "I want the moment burned in her memory. I want her to know exactly who dismantled the fantasy she built." That was when the plan shifted from legal preparation to vengeance. Ryan wasn't just ending a marriage. He was staging a finale. Lauren still floated through their house as if untouchable. Her laughter on late-night phone calls muffled behind locked bathroom doors. Her excuses about networking and conferences growing weaker, but still delivered with confidence. She had no idea the walls were closing in. And Ryan, sitting at the kitchen table every night pretending to review blueprints, smiled to himself because he knew when he struck it wouldn't just be a divorce. It would be humiliation. The woman who thought she was smarter than everyone was about to face a reckoning. And Ryan, he was patient. The kind of patience that comes before a storm. The morning Ryan chose to put his plan into motion. The sky itself looked like it was holding its breath. Gray, heavy, expectant. He sat at the kitchen counter sipping coffee, while Lauren Breeze passed in a cloud of perfume and rehearsed excuses. "Networking lunch today," she said, kissing him on the cheek like she hadn't already kissed another man's mouth the day before. "Don't wait up for me. I might be late." Ryan smiled, the kind of smile that carried no warmth. "Of course. Good luck, sweetheart." She didn't notice the edge in his tone. She never noticed much anymore. By that afternoon, Ryan was downtown, not at his office, but standing in the lobby of Stan Reilly, Lauren's agency. The receptionist, a young woman with neatly pinned hair and a curious look, glanced up at him as he placed a thick envelope on the counter. "I have some very important papers for Lauren Mercer," Ryan said evenly, his voice steady, but loud enough to carry. "Time-sensitive. Please call her out." The receptionist hesitated, sensing something in his tone, but dialed anyway. Within a minute, the clicking of heels echoed down the hall. Lauren appeared, her designer dress hugging her figure, a picture of poise and charm. But when she saw Ryan, confusion cracked her mask. "Ryan," she asked, eyebrows knitting together. "What are you doing here?" He smiled, sharp and deliberate. "Just running a few errands, dry cleaning, groceries." "Oh, and Sir did my wife divorce papers." The envelope hit her hands with a weight that made her fingers tremble. For a moment, she blinked as if her brain couldn't catch up with what was happening. Then she opened it. Inside, everything. Photos, dates, receipts, video stills, proof of every late-night yoga class, every embrace in front of Greg Stannon's house, every betrayal carved in a permanent record. Her breath caught audibly, and her face drained of color so fast it was like watching someone fade under fluorescent lights. The office had gone silent. Co-workers peeked over cubicle walls, whispering. Someone dropped a pen. The managing broker stepped out his office, frowned deepening as a star agent stood frozen with divorce papers in her shaking hands. "Ryan," she whispered fiercely, trying to force composure. "Let's talk about this at home." "Oh, no, Lauren," he said, his voice louder now, deliberate, echoing across the polished floors. "Home is where we play pretend. Here, this is where we tell the truth." The receptionist's eyes widened. A few agents exchanged glances, and one woman actually covered her mouth with her hand, like she was watching daytime TV unfold live. Ryan leaned in, lowering his voice just enough for her, but still audible to the room. "You thought you were untouchable, that you could lie to me every day, and I'd never notice. But I notice everything, Lauren. And now, so does everyone else." Lauren's lips trembled. I never meant for it to go this far." He cut her off, his tone biting. "That's what every cheater says. Like you accidentally tripped and fell into someone else's arms for months." Her co-worker's whispers rippled louder now. The broker's frown hardened, his disappointment visible. Within minutes, he was ushering her into his office, but not before Ryan spoke once more. "Don't worry," he said, smirking. "All the details are in there. It reads like Yelp, but for adultery. 5 stars for creativity, 0 for loyalty." When the office door shut behind her, the room erupted in hushed chatter. Ryan didn't wait to hear it. He walked out of that building taller than he'd felt in years, the taste of justice on his tongue. At home that evening, Lauren returned hours later. Her mascara was smeared, her eyes bloodshot, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She stopped short when she saw her suitcases stacked neatly by the front door. You pack my things?" she stammered, her voice raw. Ryan didn't even flinch. "No, Lauren." "Santa came early," he said. "You've been very bad, so I helped him out." Her face twisted, anger flaring beneath the shame. "We should at least talk about this like adults." "Great idea," Ryan shot back, his tone calm but cold. "My lawyer will be in touch. He's excellent at adult conversations." Lauren's hand shook as she grabbed at her suitcases. She glared at him, but the power she once wielded in their home was gone. She had underestimated him. Believe he was blind while she lived her double life. Now she was the one exposed. Stripped bare in front of her colleagues, her husband, and soon a judge. Ryan stood in the doorway, arms folded, watching as she hauled her bags outside. For years, she had carried herself like she was untouchable, invincible, immune to consequence. But today, she had learned the truth. Nobody was bulletproof, least of all her. As the car pulled away, Ryan whispered to himself, almost like a vow. And this is just the beginning. Because while serving her papers have been satisfying, Ryan wasn't finished. Not yet. He wanted the court to see everything. He wanted her to lose not only him, but the life she'd taken for granted. The home, the comfort, the reputation, and most of all, he wanted her to remember the moment she realized she wasn't a clever one after all. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and stale paper, but for Ryan, it smelled like justice. He sat at the plaintiff's table, suit pressed, file neatly stacked in front of him. The file that contained Lauren's undoing. She entered moments later, pale and desperate, her lawyer whispering frantically in her ear. For the first time in years, she wasn't the one in control. When the judge began reading through the evidence, Ryan didn't even look at her. He watched the judge's brow furrow as photos and receipts slid across the bench, watched the subtle shake of his head as the video evidence rolled on the monitor. Every time stamp, every hotel receipt, every incriminating detail painted Lauren as exactly what she was: a liar who had destroyed her marriage with deliberate deceit. Her attorney tried to plead, weaving a story about stress, about confusion, about a marriage already unraveling, but the judge wasn't buying it. "Mrs. Mercer," he said firmly, "this isn't confusion. This is systematic infidelity, supported by misuse of joint funds. Actions have consequences." Ryan's heart thudded as the gavel of justice came down piece by piece. No alimony, 30% of joint savings, barely enough for her to stand on. Reimbursement to Ryan for nearly $2,000 of marital money spent on her affair, and the home solely his. Lauren gasped, lips parting like she'd been struck. She turned to him, her eyes wide, desperate. "Ryan, please, you don't have to do this. We can fix it." He leaned just slightly toward her, his voice low but steady. "No, Lauren, you broke it, and now you get to live in the pieces." The judge continued, noting with clipped finality that Lauren's credibility was compromised beyond repair. Ryan almost smiled. It wasn't joy. It was vindication. Years of loyalty discarded like trash had led to this moment where her empire of lies collapsed in front of everyone. When the session ended, Ryan rose with quiet dignity, tucking his papers into his briefcase. Lauren sat frozen, her shoulders hunched, mascara streaked down her cheeks. He almost pitied her, but then he remembered the laughter she'd given another man. The night she left him alone in their bed while she spun tales of hot yoga. The pity vanished. Outside the courthouse, sunlight cut through the clouds, warm on Ryan's face. He breathed deeply. The first real breath of freedom he'd felt in years. His lawyer clapped him on the back. "You handled this smart. Most people explode. You build a case that couldn't be touched. That's why you won." Ryan gave a small nod. "She thought she was smarter than me. That was her mistake." Weeks later, word filtered back to him. Lauren had moved in with Greg Stanton, only to watch his life unraveled too. His wife had cleaned him out, his career shredded, his house gone. The two of them, once smug and secretive, were now scraping by in a dingy rental, living off takeout containers and regret. Ryan didn't need to lift another finger. Karma had taken a baton and finished the race for him. One evening, as he sat in his quiet house, glass of bourbon in hand, Ryan looked around and finally felt the peace he'd been missing. He hadn't just survived betrayal. He had orchestrated an ending that left no doubt. Cheaters might think they're untouchable, but the truth always finds them. And when it does, it burns everything they built to the UVU.